are 22 days until the big guy's here, Santa Claus.
We had our second best month ever.
We've got all the data from November 2024.
Last month, we recorded the second most amount of sales. We saw a 51% increase in revenue year on year.
Tell me about what's going on in the rentals.
We saw an 8.7% increase.
But what is interesting though is actually a third of all deals that are happening at the moment, people are paying one check.
You know, the amount of cash people are plowing into this is incredible.
Some of the numbers we've seen in off-plan, absolutely wild.
It just shows how much people believe in this city.
Well, I think the stat earlier on in the year was there's an off-plan launch every 18, 19 hours.
Yeah. The market just went through the roof. This narrative of when's this bubble going to burst? This bubble's not bursting anytime soon. I can tell you that right now.
Tuesday, the 3rd of December, we are 22 days until the big guy's here. Santa Claus.
What are you doing? Going home, staying here?
We're actually in the Dubai. A bit more relaxing, a bit of winter sun.
Is this your first time?
Second time in 17 years of having Christmas here. But we're not here to talk about Christmas. We're here to talk about Dubai data. We're now in our last month of the year. We've got all the data from November 2024. Some really interesting stats to talk about. So let's jump straight in, Mark. Talk to me about the sales market data that happened in November. What are some of the things that really stood out for you?
Well, as a business, I'd like to talk a few highline numbers. We had our second best month ever.
Yeah.
Last month, we recorded the second most amount of sales within the group. We had our best week ever, which was in week 2, I believe it was. We had 4 of our departments who had their best ever months. We had the most amount of brokers that were over target. And we were actually, we saw a 51% increase in revenue year on year, which I thought was absolutely incredible. Really. And what I thought, Carl, last month, it was like a bit of a weird start, but then it just picked up momentum. And I just felt that we were gradually, each week it just seemed to gather more and more momentum, you know what I mean? And speaking to people, even people outside of our company, it was the same for them as well. It seemed buoyant everywhere. And I think we'll see the same going into December as well.
It's interesting because there's a lot been going on around the world this year, but certainly in the last 4 weeks, we've obviously had the US elections. When big things happen regionally, or certainly in the world, whether it's something to do with politics or even geopolitics, whether it might be, conflicts in the region, in a weird way, actually, it works towards Dubai's benefit because it's probably one of the most stable places in the world. The UAE is a country, they've got real strong leadership. There's a very clear path of where they want the next 10 years to go and beyond. We're still seeing many, many, many people relocating their businesses and their employees to Dubai. Some of the numbers we've seen in off-plan, absolutely wild. Tell us what you've seen in the off-plan sector.
Going back to what you said, Carl, it's happened since COVID, hasn't it? Where when we have new guys coming in and they always ask us questions about the market and about what we've done over the last X amount of years. And it is unfortunate because when there is unrest, we always seem to thrive. Mm-hmm. Like you say, there's always, with Trump coming in, there was a reaction. There seemed to be, look at the markets. The markets just went through the roof.
Yeah.
Same with our industry. I thought as soon as that happened, that decision, it was almost like, wow. I'm not saying that was the catalyst to it all, but it was just like, this is madness.
Tell us about some of the off-plan data. And so what I've seen here, and one of the most important things to me is off-plan this year represents a 60-40 split versus secondary versus off-plan, which actually is a little bit lower than what we've seen previous months. We've actually seen off-plan dominate the market more, so there's been certainly more secondary sales. But what really stood out for me is 84% of the overall off-plan sales were actually apartments.
What does that tell you? Listen, I think you look, Carl, when people are going on about the saturation maybe coming in the next 18 to 24 months, I had a debate with someone the other day and they were saying to me that they think, well, a little bit skeptical of what's going to happen over the next 2 years. I just honestly don't believe that there's still people out there, the amount of people coming into the country, the amount of people that are already in country, and you look at the apartments Yes, there's a lot of apartments coming in, but there's no townhouses. There's no townhouse launches. There's probably going to be, what did we have? Dar Global, we had, what else did we have come to market last month? I can't remember off the top of my head, but there doesn't seem to be an awful amount of townhouses and villas coming. Yes, you look at studios and one beds, which I feel are going to make up the market in the next 2 or 3 years. I honestly do believe that. But in terms of townhouses, Carl, and villas, if I was advising someone now, that would be the route to take. Anything coming online or anything that are getting launched is to take that seriously because, like you say, there's nothing available.
18% increase in year-on-year value. So more property value sold in a year ago, 18%. Yeah. The volume there was absolutely wild. 35% increase versus the same period last year in number of off-plan transactions. So the steam train of off-plan is not ending. It's carrying on. I think the stat earlier on in the year was there's an off-plan launch every 18, 19 hours. Yeah. I think we're starting to see that velocity carry on in November. There's been a hell of a lot launched in November, and I don't know what's going to happen for the remainder of this year. But
we've seen in the summer, didn't we? It stopped a little bit. It wasn't as aggressive as it was at the start of the year, and then it's picked up again. And that's coincided with our developer sales numbers as well, Carl. Obviously, we had our best. It's our second best month. Well, our best month ever. And that coincided with October's results as well, which is our best month.
Jumping on secondary sales, apartment sales, there were 10,500 properties sold in November. Yeah. There's a 31% increase year on year in value and a 36% increase year on year in volume of sales done. This data is by Dubai Land Department. It's not Allsopp and Allsopp data, so it's a good indication of what's happening across the whole of the city. What was happening from your side of things on the villa townhouse side of things?
In terms of volume and value?
Yeah.
Well, what we've seen it was just shy of 2,000 units that were sold in November. That was actually a decrease year on year, a 31% decrease. And that coincides with what I said before in terms of the, especially with off-plan as well. We're seeing a lot of properties, a lot of apartments that are launching, not as...
So it's very clear there's less villas and townhouses launching than a year ago.
Correct. And that only 15.8% account of the total amount of transactions, which is just, it's insane the amount of apartments that have transacted over the last 30 days.
What about top communities? Where, according to the Dubai Land Department, where is the most popular in terms of transaction areas right now?
Well, I think these communities I think they've juggled around over the last 12 months. They've all been the same. You've had JVC, which is notoriously always number one. They flutter between Business Bay and JVC. Yep. JVT as well, Business Bay, like I've said, and Dubai Marina is always there. In terms of lettings, we've seen Jumeirah Village Circle. We've seen also Dubai Marina. Again, you get the top five, Carl. You'd always find it's the same every single month.
Most populated areas tend to be the most transacted areas. What about the high line number for total overall sales in value? What happened last month there?
So we saw an actual decrease year on year of 7.3%, just shy of, it was 30 billion dirhams worth of property sold, but we've seen an increase in volume by 18.1% in November.
So less value, more volume. That could be indicative, though, of the value amount of properties that are actually launching or sold in that month. So it's not a really great number to look at.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, so what about rental data? Tell me about what's going on in the rentals, because obviously at the minute we can see a very clear picture, lots of transaction happening. There's more apartments being sold than villas, but what's happening in the rental side of things? Lettings data, Mark, tell us about what's happening there. Average lettings price, are we seeing increases in rental prices? Are we seeing year on year decreases? What about checks as well?
So yeah, we saw an increase month on month. So from the previous month, we saw an 8.7% increase in the average lettings price, but we saw a 5.6% decrease year on year. Our average lettings price for November was 183,000 dirhams.
That data is from Allsopp and Allsopp, right?
That's
so
correct.
Our own proprietary transactions.
That's correct, yeah.
5.6% decrease year on year. Does that tell you anything about what's happening in rentals? Because rentals can be quite seasonal, right? You know, you have a lot of people moving in country. You tend to have quite a busy summer period, people moving in. Yeah. When kids' new school year starts, 5%, not a huge number. Do you put it down to anything with reduction or?
Well, again, what you're saying about seasonality, you look at I'm a little surprised at that, to be honest with you, Carl, because November is usually a time when people, December obviously is a time when people will maybe stall on moving house for obvious reasons, but I'm a little bit surprised at the decrease of, I know it's only a slight decrease of 5%, but usually October, November, with regards to, but again, it's going to be minimal.
So not really worth notable. What is interesting though is actually a third of all deals are happening at the moment. People are paying with one check.
Carl, again, it hasn't changed for a long time. You know, we always think, I'm in the boat of, if I get what I want, then I don't care if it's 3 or 4 checks, but
what that might be down to, though, Mark, is the reality is more people paying one check because the rents have increased that much that bit maybe people's bargaining power to try and drive the prices down a little bit
maybe
to get people paying more money up front. So that could be playing a big part in the marketplace. Buyer trends, top three countries: UK, India, France.
That was the same again in October. I think I can't remember the last time the guys from the UK have been outside the number one, the top spot.
Yeah.
And then you'll always hover between Indians and French, who are either 2 or 3. So that hasn't changed significantly. But again, it shows, Carl, again, the sentiments with people coming from the UK, a lot of people, again, I know a lot of people personally, and we're seeing a lot of trend in the market where people are now moving from the UK or from Europe and coming to Dubai. I think we're at 3.8 million dirhams as a population now.
Yeah.
And we're looking at doubling that within the next 10 years.
Yeah. A lot of work to do. What fascinated me though is the increase in cash buyers and also the increase in finance buyers year on year. So there's a huge uptick of people buying with cash. I think a large part of that might be down to expensive to lend money months prior, but actually the big increase in finance buyers could be indicative of interest rates coming down last month.
It shows again, though, with 51% increase in cash buyers, it just shows how much people believe in this city. You know, the amount of cash people are plowing into this economy now, and especially into our industry, is incredible. That's 51. That's the most I've ever seen it, I think, year on year. A plus 51% increase in cash buyers is absolutely incredible. But like you said, in terms of finance buyers as well, I think you can get now, there's some rates at around about the 4% mark, dependent on how long you fix. I think there's a 2-year for 4%. I think there's actually a 1-year that is at 3.79, I believe.
Yeah.
Which is, again, that's come down over the last couple of months as well, which is again, it's great for any buyer getting on the market now.
Villa townhouses increase in the average sale price. It says here 33.5% increase year on year. Now, that's not an indication of the whole market, but according to our figures, we've seen a 33.5% increase. What do you put that down to? Is that accurate, do you think?
It's very accurate, I believe. And again, you might shoot me down here, and the market might shoot me down, but there's not a great deal of ready villa or townhouse communities in the whole of Dubai available.
Yeah.
I think you went on record about 2 or 3 years ago about speculative sellers. They're still there, Carl.
Yeah.
They're still there, coming onto the market saying that they want X when the price might be 15, even 20% where it should be based on Data Hub, which is our platform. And they're speculative. But these guys, look, when they're coming to market, Carl, there's nothing available. So any buyer coming in, especially for renovated properties, people don't want the headache of the renovation and everything else. They want to move into these properties. And there's not a great deal amount on this market. There's not a great deal that you can get into that are vacant or owner-occupied. So people have to pay these prices. So that stat does not surprise me at all.
Are we saying really for the next year or two, villa townhouses in terms of investments the way to go?
100%. 100%. And on that as well is we keep hearing this this narrative of when's this bubble going to burst. This bubble's not bursting anytime soon. I can tell you that right now.
Look, people will listen to these podcasts, watch them on YouTube and say, oh, well, Carl and Mark are talking the market up. The reality is that the numbers don't lie. Numbers are that there's net increase of people joining country, circa 200,000 per year. There is probably going to be, for the next 3 years, consistently between 40 and 60,000 units handover per year. You do the numbers, what we're talking at now, we're talking 150, 160,000 units handover over the next 3 years, yet there's going to be, based on this year previous, 200,000 most years over the next 3 years. So 150,000, 160,000 units, 600,000 people coming into country. That's assuming that these properties that were launched a few years ago are actually going to be delivered on time, which is another talking point. You know, some projects being delayed by a number of months. So I can't see anything slowing down anytime soon.
Just on a different note, well, it's going off on a tangent here, but let's say you look at F&B, and you look at J1 now, which used to be the Le Maire development. They obviously flattened Le Maire, and now they've put, I think, 12 to 13 beach clubs. That's just one development. The guys or the powers that be who run this country, they must see the numbers. They must see people that are coming into the country every single month, year on, year out. They will not be doing, or the guys that are going in and develop. Sorry, guys.
Investing in these projects.
Yeah, sorry.
And even the infrastructure, the roads. I mean, we're talking hundreds of millions, if not billions of dirhams in changing the roads infrastructure. This money would not be invested in Dubai if they didn't have belief in the growth of the business, the growth of the country. What is really interesting is I heard on the radio the other day, 40% of the country's GDP, so the amount of money that the company generates, the country generates, will be spent, 40% will be spent on the infrastructures of Dubai next year. So drainage, roads, again, that's huge. I think reading the UK, 1% of the UK's total GDP is spent on infrastructure.
You look at the bridges, I think they've done like 6 bridges on Al Khail Road. I went away for a couple of weeks. I came back and I think it was 2 bridges that were done. You know, all of these, like you say, the infrastructure that's going in. And I don't believe, I used to, 5-6 years ago, I used to find, well, this area is too far away, or nowhere's too far away no more, because of the roads that they're building, all of these things that they're bringing in, and it only bodes well for the city. So going back to your original question, I just can't see how this place can slow down. I really, really can't. Even with the number of launches that have happened in the last 12, 24 months, and will continue to happen over the next 12 months, I just can't see how we can slow down. And yes, we're always going to put a spin on it, but like you say, the numbers don't lie.
If you look back at 2024, how would you summarise in a few words the year for the real estate market in general? How would you look back on it?
I think it's the most buoyant that it's ever been since I've been here. I've been here for 16 years. And I think at the start, I remember you and Lewis done a podcast, and you both said about single-digit growth. That's been blown out the water, Carl. Mm-hmm. In some cases, it's been 15, 20% more.
Are we in a bubble?
I don't believe so. I honestly don't believe. And again, it's all well and good having an opinion, but the facts do not lie. You said before, the amount of people that are coming into country against the amount of properties that are going to be coming or going to be handing over in the next 24 months, I honestly don't believe it will be the case. More people come into the country. And again, you said something before about vision, and it's stuck in my head when we had our meeting this morning about having a pathway. This Dubai and the UAE, they have a pathway for everything. They have what's going to happen in the next 4 years, 5 years, up to a 10-year period, and they deliver. They absolutely deliver. And I've got no doubt in my mind, Carl, by the urban plan, which is 2030, they will do what they want. The infrastructure will be in place. The amount of people that they want will be here. And for that, again, that just bodes well for our industry. And again,
if you're going into 2025, what if you're an investor? What are you suggesting people to buy if it's a secondary purchase? Where would you lean towards?
Either a secondary or...
Secondary purchase for an investor. Where are you buying to rent? Where's your advice next year to go?
Do you know what I love still? I love JVC.
Yeah.
I love JVC. I've actually got a soft spot for Arjan as well. I'm talking, like you said, let's talk entry level Arjan as well, because I take my children to school every morning. And what they've done over the last 18 months there with roads and infrastructure and buildings, and they've got the schools there, they've got the parks, and they've got the hospitals. I like there as well. The returns are very respectable. And then you look again, going back to what we said before, Carl, if it was me and I was putting my money on the line, I would be looking at townhouses. So again, you've got Emaar Oasis, which is obviously launched last year, but that will be coming into play over the next 24 months. Again, a little further afield, but another really, really interesting development is the Valley, going towards the 7, which is an EMAR project as well. Like I said before, Carl, you look, people are not frightened of moving out. Everyone wanted to be in the epicenter. Everyone wanted to be Emirates Living or Arabian Ranches. You go down the Al Quadra corridor. I was there last week, and the traffic was intense. But it just shows now people are moving a little bit further out the field, you know. But my advice would, townhouses, entry level, let's say around the 4-5 million dirham mark, because again the rents are very attractive as well.
What can you get in rent percentage? Let's say net rental yield. What should people be looking out to try and achieve? What's going to be a good rental?
I think anything over plus 6% net, and you've got to be careful when people say 6-7%. Make sure it's a net return, because obviously you've got to take off your service fees as well with that, and that will get your net figure there. But yeah, typically 5.5-6% is a very, very good return. But you look at villas, Carl, and again you tend to find that your return on your villas were always higher than your apartments, just because service fees for your apartments are always typically higher. I'm not saying the gap's shortened, but your service fees are always a lot less than what in the villa projects than what you're on in the apartments. So you're looking typically around the 6.5% mark.
Good. Okay, Mark. Well, this is taking care of business. This is one of our last ones of the year. We've got 3 more weeks of December before we wrap up. We're very confident and very bullish going into 2025. Exciting to see lots of new launches, lots of new developers coming into country. We believe it will be more of the same, and we'll have a podcast at the end of the year to give our views and predictions going into 2025. We expect further decreases in mortgage rates to come down, which will obviously help affordability even more. Really excited. I think it's a very good time for you to be involved in the real estate market. Should you be a buyer, seller, tenant, landlord, mortgage, just want to look and take out the first mortgage, now is a good time to do that.
Just one thing before we leave, Carl, and I know the narrative is on plus $10 million at the moment, but you look at the transactions sub 3 million dirhams, it accumulates to 88% of the market.
Wow.
Which is what?
88% of all transactions.
88% of all transactions are sub
$1 million.
Yeah.
Good. Well, thank you very much, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Please like, comment, subscribe to help us encourage to do more good content for you. Have a good day.
Thank you.